Jeff Armstrong, Associate Professor of Guitar and Jazz at Marist College and Adjunct Professor in Music at Dutchess Community College. I'm a guitar player, a composer, as well as a performer. In elementary school, I played saxophone for a couple of years and drums and band, and always liked music. And I had a neighbor, Brian Tobias, that played guitar, and I'd come home from school when I was in 8th grade, and he was ripping up on his Gibson SG and just kind of drew me like the Pied Piper over to his house and wanted to really play guitar. I fell in love with it at that point. And my main influences are kind of varied. Since I play a lot of different styles, the classical, the flamenco, rock, blues, and jazz, guitar and bass, I kind of try to organize things into a little bit of the category. I would say with classical, Paganini is the main guy for me. I love Vivaldi and Bach and some of that kind of neo-baroque. Or early on with blues, I think Stevie Ray Vaughan was very influential. I kind of heard him and got drawn into the guitar and started to explore a lot of the roots of blues. Early metal, and really Randy Rhoads is probably the most influential guitar player I have in my list here, because he was, sort of cutting edge with Ozzy Osbourne and metal, but then also used classical guitar in the band and studied privately with other teachers, and I think that was the main thing that I kind of knew I could rock out, but I needed all the theory as well. When I was probably 19, a music store opened up in Wappingers. I was the first one to knock on the door and ask if they needed a teacher, so that gave me a foot in the door as far as teaching private lessons, and then was pretty successful at that. My main influences are kind of varied. Since I play a lot of different styles, the classical, the flamenco, rock, blues, and jazz, guitar and bass, I kind of try to organize things into a little bit of the category. I would say with classical, Paganini is the main guy for me. I love Vivaldi and Bach and some of that kind of neo-baroque thing that goes on. For early on with blues, I think Stevie Ray Vaughan was very influential. I kind of heard him and got drawn into the guitar and started to explore a lot of the roots of blues. Early metal, and really Randy Rhoads is probably the most influential guitar player I have in my list here, because he was, sort of cutting edge with Ozzy Osbourne and metal, but then also used classical guitar in the band. As far as my education and background goes, when I was 18 and out of high school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to be, but I had good family guidance, and I got a business administration degree, and I transferred to Paltz College. where I was a marketing major, but I loved music and was a music minor. And when I graduated from New Paltz, I started teaching guitar lessons, loved teaching, so I went back and got my undergrad degree in music theory and composition. At that time, I started working at Bard College as a flamenco dance accompanist, had the opportunity to study independently with composer Joan Tower, with Richard Teitelbaum, Nicholas Maw, and David Behrman up there, and knew that they had an MFA program in composition, so it was the right place and the right time, and definitely a positive experience. Well, as far as a stage name, I'm too down to earth and blue collar for any of that kind of showbiz stuff. I jokingly go by El Jefe, the gypsy from Poughkeepsie, when I do flamenco gigs, but it's really Jeff Armstrong, always has been, always will be. Well, being a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid from upstate New York, a lot of people ask the question how I got into flamenco. In 1988, when I was going to undergrad school, the National Guitar Summer Workshop offered 1 week of classical guitar and 3 weeks of electric, rock guitar, or jazz. And I begged my parents to send me, and they agreed that they would send me, but only for classical week. So I kind of felt a little frustrated, and one of the majors you could pick was flamenco, and I knew really nothing about it, just a couple pieces, I guess, that you've heard, and some stereotypes. So I kind of went in there cold. I hooked up with the teacher, Dennis Coster, who I studied with in New York on and off for about 10 years after that, and just got bit by the bug. It's really funny because, kind of being a rocker and going into classical music and then flamenco, I found a lot of similarities, in the minor keys that I was comfortable with, and all the improvisation that goes with it is just awesome. The rhythms are pretty tricky, a lot of them, and the hemiolas are just difficult to get a grip on. As far as some of the influential people, my teacher, Dennis Coster, had studied directly with Sabicas. Sabicas, when I got exposed to him, just opened the doors to everything. He's probably my favorite. I really enjoy Manitas de Plata, Silver Hands. Paco Pena, I've met him a few times at some of his concerts in New York and upstate. He's brilliant, and I love the fact that he even wrote the Misa Flamenco, the flamenco mass. But Paco de Lucia is really the one that kind of crosses over from that traditional flamenco into kind of a jazz-influenced flamenco from his album with John McLaughlin and Alto Miola. Career advice in music, it is kind of difficult because it's such a large industry, whether you wanted to be an entrepreneur and have a record company or be a manager, a road manager, into merchandise, into publishing. There's a lot of different angles other than just being a performer or a composer. So I try to give students advice that I had is to pursue the music but have something to fall back on. That's why I have the business degrees in my back pocket as well. And then at least you can kind of be angled towards something or have something that's more possible. Because right now, if you are a good programmer versus a good musician, you might be very successful. So it's kind of hard to say. And what I've always said is that good music is not popular, and popular music is not good. So you could be the best musician and just be unnoticed by everybody. So you just have to find what you want to do, your own niche in the market and in the industry, and as long as you're happy and pursue it and kind of can keep things going on the side, more power to you.